welcome to another interesting English language class. My name is Precious Balogun. Our theme for today is oracy skills, listening comprehension. And our topic is listening to grasp main points or ideas in a speech, conversation, lecture, poem, recorded material, radio broadcast, and short debates. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to listen attentively to identify main ideas in a speech. Also, identify main points in a conversation or lecture. Next, identify keywords in a speech, conversation, or lecture. And lastly, identify key sentences from a speech, conversation, or lecture. Listening is the act of paying close attention to speech sounds and processing them into words and sentences to make meaning. As good listeners, we must pay close attention to what a speaker is saying so as to understand what he's trying to pass across to you as a listener. Now, how can we understand what a speaker is saying? This can be done by listening to identify the main idea. Let's go on to see what the main idea is. When we identify the main idea, we can appreciate what the speaker is saying. Now, let's go on to see the types of main ideas that we have. We have the stated main idea and the implied main idea. Let's look at what the stated main idea is all about. Stated main idea is the main point clearly mentioned by the speaker in a particular speech or conversation. Let's take a look at an example. Dog is man's best friend. They are friendly and lively, fun to be with, and they will always protect their own. From this example, we can see that the main idea is clearly stated. Dog is man's best friend. From the supporting sentence, we can also see that dog is man's best friend. While on the other hand, we have the implied main idea. This is a main point that is not clearly mentioned or stated by the speaker. Here, the listeners are meant to infer or to figure out what the main idea is. Let's take a look at an example. Ogechi always beams with smiles every morning as she leaves for the office. On her way to work, she gets coffee for her colleagues and smiles as she greets everyone she comes across. Now here, the main idea is not clearly mentioned, but we can figure out what the main idea is. From this example, we can suggest that the main idea is Ogechi is nice and has a cordial relationship with people around her. How were we able to get the main idea? This was based on the information given to us. So we can get the main idea, or we can suggest the main idea by the information that the speaker gives to us. Now let's go on to see how we can identify the main idea. Before we go on to identifying the main idea, many people lose sight of the main idea because they feel it is important to listen to every word or detail said by the speaker. This will only make you nervous and lose sight of the main idea. Now, let's see how we can properly identify the main idea. In identifying the main idea, we should ask ourselves some questions. First, what is the speech about? Does it discuss a person, thing, or idea? What is being said about the person, thing, or idea? And lastly, is any part of the speech or conversation emphasized repeatedly? With these questions at the back of your mind, you will be able to identify the main idea. Now, let's listen to a conversation and I'll be right back.
Good morning, Imabong. How are you?
My dear sister, I am fine. How are you?
I can't complain, no, my sister. Wait, though. Is that not Mr. Chukwudi's son I saw standing naked in the streets? What's the matter with him?
My sister, it's a long story, oh. Do you know that that boy has been involved in drug abuse for a very long time? Despite the warnings from his parents and his family members, he still kept on doing drugs. Now, see his condition, standing naked in the streets.
Oh my goodness. You mean drug abuse could put someone in this kind of situation?
Yes, my sister, and many more.
Are you serious?
Yes, so drug abuse is very bad. Using psychoactive drugs like marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and other sniffing solutions can make one become mentally unstable and also make you useless to your family and to people around you.
Here. Now, wow.
That is how the boy got into that situation. So, in order for you to be useful to yourself and your family, avoid drug abuse. Do not use any drug without the prescription of your doctor. Please be careful, oh. I have said my own, oh.
Thank you, my dear sister. I'll be careful and I'll also tell people out there to beware of drug abuse. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, my friend.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Welcome back. I'm sure you enjoyed the conversation and you learned something new. Now I have some questions for you that will help you identify the main idea of the conversation we just listened to. First, what was the conversation about? Was it about a person, a thing, or an idea? And also, while listening, was there an idea being repeated? Now, I'll leave you to these questions as we go on to look at how we can grasp the main idea of a speech or a conversation. First, listen to the beginning and end of a conversation. Remember I said earlier that most times when we listen for the main idea, we tend to miss out the main point because we want to get every word or detail the speaker is saying. But when we listen to the beginning and the end of a conversation, we'll be able to get the main idea. Reasons being that at the beginning, the speaker tells us what he wants to pass on to us. And also at the end, the speaker gives a summary of all he has said, which includes the main idea. Let's go on to see the next point. Next, we have listen for repetition. Remember, when we're trying to identify the main idea, I gave us some questions that we can use to help us identify the main idea. And one of which was looking out for words or sentences being repeated or emphasized by the speaker. This will help us know what the speaker is trying to say or get the main point of a particular speech, because he tries to emphasize what he wants you to take home. Having known this, let's go on to the next, which is listening for discourse markers. What are discourse markers? Discourse markers are also known as sentence connectors or linking words or phrases. These words or phrases help in the organization and flow of a conversation or speech. For example, we have furthermore, in addition, also, likewise, similarly, however, for instance, therefore, meanwhile, beyond, accordingly, consequently, notwithstanding, hence, again, and so on. Listening for these words or phrases will help us grasp the main idea of a speech. For example, I can say, in addition to cooking, Chidinma also does the laundry. Hence, she is a hard-working girl. From the example I gave, I made use of the following discourse markers: in addition, also, and hence. From these discourse markers, you can be able to grasp the main idea of what I was saying. Now, before we go, let's take a quick summary of all we've learned so far. First, we learned that the main idea is the most important thought or message of a speech or conversation. Also, we learned that the main idea can be directly stated or implied by the speaker. Moving on, we learned that listening for the main idea in a speech or conversation will help the listener get a good understanding of what the speaker is trying to say. Also, some questions you should ask yourself before identifying the main idea of a speech are: what is the topic about? What is being said about the person, thing, or idea? Do you hear a recurring information as you listen? And lastly, we learned that to grasp the main point of a speech or conversation, you must listen to the beginning and end of the conversation, listen for repetition, and discuss markers. Now, before we go, let's go on to our test questions. Question 1. What are the things you should consider before identifying the main idea? A. What the topic is about and the recurring information. B. The mood and the tone of the speaker. C. Every single word and phrases used in the conversation. Or D. The length of the speech. The correct answer is A. Question 2. How can we listen to grasp the main point of a speech? A. Listen to every single word said by the speaker. B. Listen for repetition and discuss markers. C. Listen for the end of the speech only. Or D. Listen for the grammatical errors of the speaker. The correct answer is B. This is where we draw the curtain for today's class. I'm sure by now you can identify the main idea of a speech or conversation. Till we meet again in our next class, see you and bye.